Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Boruto manga review. This one is going to be for Chapter 3 of the Boruto manga, which is called The Chunin Exam Begins. So yeah, once again we are just in another chapter where we get a further adaptation of the Boruto movie. So it's definitely looking like, at the very least, like we're going at least another 3, maybe 4 chapters, depending on how quickly the action has got through after this one. But look, the adaptation I think is quite good. It's actually not too bad. I think the art is getting better. I still just completely question why on earth did they start off the Boruto manga by just adapting the movie that already is out. That content's already out. Why go back and do it when it's out there? Um, because they're not really adding much extra to it as well, which I think is part of the problem. Like this time round, we get a couple of extra scenes with Gara and Konkuro, like on the arriving towards the Leaf Village, and we get kind of a closer look at the Sand Genin. Obviously, they're going to the tuning exams, and we get a little scene where just like we sort of get confused about like Shinki, the one who looks like he's Konkuro's son, kind of refers to him as Gara as like the great father, and it's kind of like, is he just trying to be like reverential towards the Kazekage Gara by calling him the great father, or like are they Gara's children, or what? Like there's a little bit of weirdness with some of the dialogue here. It could just be the translation now, but that's, I think, the problem. We get an extra scene of Metal Lee, Rock Lee's son, training, and that's about it. The rest of it, I think, as far as I'm aware, goes exactly as it does in the movie itself. We get a little bit of training between Boruto and Sasuke, where Sasuke is just like, no, look, you should be able to figure these things out on your own. You shouldn't instantly ask, how do I do that, and get me to do it. You should be able to do that on your own. And later on, Boruto complains that, like, Sarada's good at the shuriken jutsu stuff, and then Sasuke just calls him out on it, and it's just like, okay, if she's good at that, then by definition you must be good at shadow clones. And so he's like, how many can you make? Naruto can make 1,000 shadow clones. You can only make 4 additional ones. And you just, this kind of question of just like, that's not how it works. It's your work ethic is kind of what they're trying to get at here. And that's the thing that's done well in the movie that I also think is being adapted well here. It is Boruto wanting to kind of get the admiration from his father for succeeding, but almost not having confidence in the skill that he does have, and just going down the easy path despite not really needing to necessarily. He just, the second something is slightly going wrong for Boruto, he goes for the ninja tool. He thinks he has to use that to have the power, instead of just putting his foot down and being determined like Naruto, and kind of getting that across that he just he expects the good things to happen, and not him not having to do as much training as he should have to. And he's just not putting in the effort, when if he did just have confidence in himself and put a little bit more effort in, he is talented. Like, I think it's already been established that just naturally he does know multiple elemental styles of jutsu. He just, for some reason, loses confidence very easily, and that's kind of what the arc here is about, having the strength to kind of do stuff on his own, Sasuke trying to teach him that, and then I suppose Naruto having to be a little bit harsh with him as well later on to kind of get that across as well, because Sarada and Mitsuki save him in the first stage of the exam, where they're asked a question and they basically have to stand in an area for true, stand in an area for false. And what ends up happening is that the book that this true or false quote is from doesn't actually exist. So both of the floors open up, everyone falls down, and the idea here is you pass if you don't get covered in black ink. And Mitsuki, Stretchy saves Sarada. Sarada, throws a rope down and saves Boruto. So he wasn't any use at all in the first round, and his teammates had to bail him out, and he doesn't feel overly confident. But Naruto still sends him an email to say, well done on passing the first stage of the exams. I hope you do well in the next one. And you can see that Boruto's happy to get this, but kind of does his usual thing of just like, oh, my dad didn't even bother to send the shadow clone. What a bad dad. Even though he's very happy that he's getting some sort of attention from his father. Maybe not the full attention that he wants of like his actual real father coming to see him and talking to him about that, but you can sort of see what's being set up here after the second stage of the exam, which is more of a kind of capture the flag situation across the rooftops of the Leaf Village, and basically it's 3-on-3, capture the flag, and basically Boruto's on defense of their flag while Mitsuki and Sarada go on attack. Boruto is confronted by a guy who has 2 shadow clones, so 3 on Boruto's 5, but then he has his shadow clones do shadow clone jutsu, and so it's 9 on 5, and immediately he loses his confidence. He fends off a couple of them reasonably well, but he really lets the numbers kind of get in his head, and he kind of is kind of being defeated. And I don't think it's necessarily the best representation of Boruto's strength. I think it's more of his mental strength here rather than... I think he is actually skilled enough to counter the numerical disadvantages as it was here. He just lets that go to his head, and then the second he thinks he's going to lose, he resorts to using the technological ninja tool of the ninjutsu capsules. And he uses a crazy water jutsu, then a lightning jutsu to defend the base, and impresses everyone, but it's not his own skill. And it's obviously setting up the kind of minor villains of this, of the people who invented this ninja kind of tool are using Boruto as a way to get a lot of attention on their on their device, so they can obviously make a lot of money off it when they begin to sell it. But they're basically just waiting for Boruto to get enough hype in the event by using it a lot, and then reveal actually Boruto didn't do any of this himself. He used our ninja tool to use all that powerful stuff. And that would be the perfect example of just like, he won the Chunin exams using this device. So anyone could be just as powerful as a strong ninja just by doing this. And you can see that they're immediately using him. He's not aware of that and is using it just to basically gain his father's acceptance. But the plot of the Boruto movie is nice. It's just like, I've seen the movie. I know what the plot is already. And the manga isn't doing enough different. And I don't think the presentation of it in manga format is doing it overly different as well, because the jump from manga to animation is really interesting to see how they go about doing that. The other way around, not so much. Going from already having full animation to manga, not so much. Especially when they're not really adding extra scenes, and the only notable thing really being that a couple of the characters' designs are a little bit different, primarily Sarada, but a couple of the other characters being changed around as well. But really, that's all there really is, I think, to say about it. We're, I suppose, in or around the halfway point of the Boruto movie, because what's about to happen next is obviously the third stage of the Chunin exams, which is the one-on-one fights. And obviously after this, the reveal about the power of the ninja tools comes out. Naruto obviously has his big moment with Boruto, and then the Otsutsuki villains come back into play, and that basically starts the kind of very heavy, just like super fast-paced action of like Naruto defending the village, we have to go get Naruto back, and towards the end. So they could, I think, do it in 3 chapters, but it might be 4, again, depending on how much the action is actually, how much time is given to the action. The final thing I'll mention in this video is just that Ikemoto, the new artist obviously here, it's not Kishimoto of course, I actually think his art is very much improving. I think he does action very well. I actually think the action comes across very, very nicely in this manga. It's very kind of clear and clean as to what's going on. He still has some issues at times with the faces and how the eyes look on the faces, and just getting consistency of like hairstyle and the facial structure. But in general, so much of the art is like very clean, it's on model, and then as I said, the action I think and movement stuff is done very well. So ton of potential here, and if he can just solidify it that last kind of step, this is going to be extremely, extremely good art. So I'm hoping, like, obviously by the time he gets through the adaptation of the movie, he can go into the new stuff and just be completely on it for the art. Because I suppose potentially that's why this is happening like that. Apologies for the noise outside. Nothing I can do to stop it. Just some noisy birds, I think, outside. Um, I think potentially that's why this is happening. They're giving him the first couple of chapters to just adapt something that already exists, to get the art into a state where it's super solid, and then they can go into the new stuff and have the artist be solid, have the writers and the whole team basically have worked together for a while, this new creative team, and they're just on it from the get-go on the new stuff. That's the only like explanation and like positive that I think can come from this. Otherwise, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's going to be a couple of months before we're back to new stuff. And I think potentially the biggest problem with this is just that there's no referrals back to the first couple of pages from the first chapter, with the flash forward ahead with older Boruto and this craziness happening in the Leaf Village, and he is some apparent hero, this new power. There's no setup for that at the start of any of these chapters, and it's just going to be a big break between Boruto Chapter 1, the first couple of pages, versus when we eventually get back to new stuff in, like, what, 3-4 chapters from now? And even then, I doubt they're going to straight away go to that stuff. I think we're going to be ages before we get back to whatever was going on in the start of the first chapter. But yeah, that's been the review for Boruto Chapter 3. Good, but obviously it's not new, so there's not really much I can say about it. So that's been the review. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the chapter, on the review. Final thing I'll say is just my usual thing, is just if you want to help support my channel to make new videos, better videos, and primarily help me get a new camera, because the current camera I'm using right now is absolutely on the way out. Battery life is awful. You can help me out by supporting me on Patreon. Link to that is in the description below. There are a variety of different reward tiers available. And then the other way you can help me is just with a one-off donation on PayPal. PayPal donation link also in the description below. Other than that, thanks for watching this video, and bye.